Hey everybody, I'm back. I just wanted to add a little just to get us set up with our development environment so we can get started with coding right away in the next video. And I recommend using a tool called Cloud9. The address is c9.io, and it gives you a virtual computer. It's a Linux machine that's set up with a code editor and a terminal and a file browser. And no matter what computer you go on, you'll have all of your tools available. Everything's set up to be a development environment, which is really nice. It's also very distraction free. So I recommend this. And the way I'd go about it is make a GitHub account if you don't have one already. GitHub is just, it uses Git, which is a source control, version control software, which is most companies use Git today to keep track of changes in code, and it's helpful to learn it, and also it's basically like an undo for you. So if you ever want to go back to a previous state, you can do so with GitHub or with Git via GitHub. So sign up for GitHub and use your email address and get it verified, and then go over to Cloud9. And so by verified, I mean you have to, check your email and click on the link. That's very important, or you won't be able to use it until you do that. So then go over to Cloud9 and you can sign up just with your GitHub, and it will be linked with your GitHub immediately, which is very nice. You can see I already have one, so I don't need to sign up. And then I would make a workspace and call it Workspace, and you'll see why in a moment, but I recommend that. I haven't really decided which template we should use. I decided not to use C++ because I found some issues with it. It's kind of leaning toward Node, but I think now I'll just say use custom, and later on I might change this video. So click on custom and create workspace, and it's generating your virtual machine, and I'll just tell you a little bit about it while it's loading. On the left is a file browser where you get to see just a portion of your hard drive that you're given, a virtual hard drive. And the folder you get is called Workspace because that's what we named our workspace. Now, the weird thing about this is this will say whatever you named your workspace, but in actuality, this folder is always going to be called Workspace. So to clear that up, I'm just going to name it according to what it is, rather than have a folder that has two different names depending on where you're looking at it. It makes it a lot easier and less confusing. So yeah, this folder is one among many in your home directory, which you can't really see because it's deeper into closer to the root of the drive than this. Our workspace starts at this folder, so that's all they show. But you can access closer to the root of the drive than that in the terminal if you need to. So you can change directory up one level and you'll be in the home directory, and then if you ls to list, you can see there's actually two folders there. And then go back to where you previously were, just cd and dash takes you back to this workspace folder, which is in home Ubuntu, which is your username. Everybody has it, Ubuntu. And in that home folder, workspace. So that's where we are. And now what I'd like to do is, and you might not find this necessary, but I find this README is not really needed at all, unless you're sharing your workspace to people. So to remove it, you could right-click and choose delete, but I'm going to do it the big boy way in terminal, and I'm going to do RM for remove and read. You start to type README and you can hit tab and it auto completes, and just hit enter and it's gone. And it's gone forever, by the way. There's no trash can when you do it this way. So there's no recovering it unless you go into Cloud9 has some source control that actually tracks the state of things. So you could restore it that way, but we're not going to need to. So now what we'll do is let's make a folder for our course here, because you might want to put all the other folders for other things you're doing, but just to keep it organized and to keep it backed up on GitHub, let's make a directory. So it's mkdir, and we'll call it GP for general programming. And now it's made this directory here, you can see. Now, Cloud9 most likely did set you up for your credentials with Git and GitHub, but in case it didn't, I had a tutorial on my website for Ruby on Rails, and it has a Git setup instructions, so you can go to that here. And you would enter in these three. The first three you might not have to do, but the last you probably will. And this just authorizes your computer to talk to the GitHub server. So you're basically registering your computer with GitHub. If this cat command, what it does is it displays what's in this file, id rsa.pub, and then you would go over to GitHub and you would paste it in, and that's sort of like it's your public key for your computer. So it would be authorizing your GitHub account to access your computer. So type this in and then copy the entire key as it pastes out, and then go to GitHub. And I'm not signed in here. Let's see. You would go to settings and SSH keys, and you can see I have mine here. They're green because they're active. So you would add a new one and paste in what was cat out from that command, and that would authorize you. So that's how you do that. Now let's go into the directory we just made. So change directory GP, and we can make a file. If you use the touch command, you'll make a file. So we're going to make our first program be called hello. So hello, and give it the extension CPP, even though we're really mostly going to be using C. And I'm sorry, I didn't do that right. Touch hello.cpp, and you can see it's made it right there. Now what we're going to do is let's initialize this folder GP to be tracked by Git. So what we'll do is type git init, and what that does is it initializes the repository. Now you can't see anything here, but if you choose to see hidden files, you'll see it's created a folder called Git, which is all the information that Git uses to track your source. And I would not recommend altering anything in there. Now let's hide that again, actually. And by the way, to show that in terminal, you would do ls for list and then -a for all, and it shows everything. So hit clear. Let's get a clear our screen. So now at this point, all we really have is a folder that contains everything needed to track your software, your code that you write, but it's not actually tracking anything yet. So what we need to do is we need to add it all to the list of tracked files and folders that Git is tracking. So git add -a, and the dot means everything. The -a means to also update deleted files and folders so that they'll be also deleted on the remote on GitHub server. If you don't do that, it starts to pile up junk with stuff that you deleted long ago, but it's still showing up. So there's a way to delete things and have Git recognize it, but this is just sort of a fail-safe so that, it doesn't wind up surviving even after you deleted it. And you can always go back to a previous version to fetch something that you deleted. So it's not actually gone. It's just, not visible in the newest version. So do that. And now if you type git status, you'll see that that new file has been added and it's in green. If we had typed git status before the command git add all, you would see this in red, and then afterward you'd see it in green. So you can see that you've done something. And now what we want to do, now that we've have it staged to be committed, because it's not actually committed yet, you can see Git has a lot of steps before it's actually set in stone, which is good because you can go back. So the next step would be git commit, and then you add a message. I don't recommend not adding a message. It's not really good practice. And then in double quotes or single quotes, you type your message. So let's just do initial commit and hit enter. So now we're ready to actually push it because we've only made this version be tracked on our local computer. We haven't talked to GitHub yet. So what we'll do is we'll push it to GitHub, but we don't even have a repository yet on GitHub. So what you need to do is you need to go to GitHub and make a new repository. Usually people will name the directory that they're working in the same as the repository name, but I make my directory names rather short just because they're easy to zip around in terminal with. So we'll give it a little more descriptive name, genprog and general programming course. So now for the visibility of the repository, GitHub charges for private, so unfortunately you have to use public, but it doesn't really matter for this project. If you're doing something with sensitive data, I usually go to Bitbucket instead of GitHub because they have free private repositories. So we'll create the repository. Go to these instructions because we have an existing repository on Cloud9. So we'll copy this first command, go back into our workspace, paste it. I'll explain what it is. So we're adding a remote. A remote is another computer that's linked to the same repository. So GitHub is a remote, and we're calling that remote origin because that's the origin of our code. So we're adding this new origin, and that is the location of it. So hit enter. Now we've added it, but there was another instruction, so we'll go back here, and this is actually to push everything. I'll explain this as well. You do it with the U the first time, this U tag, but each additional time you don't need that. You would do git push origin master, and origin is the name of the branch, or I'm sorry, the name of the remote, and master is the name of the branch. Master is the common name for the sort of the stable version of your software. So if you distribute your software, people would download from master. If you deploy a website, you would deploy it from the master branch. You wouldn't deploy it from another like experimental branch that you're working on something. So this separates the stable version from, stuff that's in the shop being worked on, so to speak. So, but what we want to do is we don't want to work directly off the master branch because that is reserved for a stable state. So we'll make a new branch, and if you type git branch, it lists what you have, and you see we only have master. If we had something else, we would do git checkout and then type the name of the branch. Since we're going to a branch that we don't have yet, we do the B tag, which this flag, sometimes called a tag, will create a new branch. So we'll call it dev, short for development. So now we have a new branch called dev, but it only exists locally. So what we'll do is, by switching to it, we've already added everything from the master branch. It just sort of like clones it. So we don't need to do git add and all that stuff again. All we need to do is git push origin, now put dev instead of master. And that creates the repository, or creates the branch on the origin remote on GitHub. So now we have that. And now if you go back to GitHub and you refresh the page, you'll see a whole different story. So what we have here is, see there's two branches. We can look at the branches here. So if you click on this, you see the state of it in the development branch, which is the same as the master right now. And it might seem like a lot of steps we took to get here, and it really is. And I have some shortcuts that I do where I really only type one command and a message, and it does the adding, the committing, and the pushing all at once. But I don't want you to use that at first because you'll forget the original commands, and we want to learn it the right way, and then you can learn the easy way later on. So yeah, we'll work from the Cloud9 IDE, and we'll push to GitHub. And next time what we'll do is we'll actually fill out this Hello CPP with a complete C++ program, and we'll run it so you can get to see some code in action. So looking forward to that, and I'll see you next time.